So my name is Matthew Sweezy. I'm the Marketing Automation Evangelist, Head of B2B Thought Leadership for the Pardot division of Salesforce. And you guys are attending the Accelerate Pipe with Pardot. Now, before we get started, we always have to give you this nice big slide. We're a publicly traded company. Please do not buy anything based off of any forward-looking statements that we might make. I won't make any, but now we're all happy. All right, so here we go. First question. Who knows the difference between ExactTarget and Pardot? Or should I say the Marketing Cloud and Pardot in the Sales Cloud? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people. All right, let me kind of clear this up for everybody. Another question, who does B2C, such as you sell one product to like hundreds of thousands of people, whatever your number might be. All right, now who's B2B? You have a considered purchase in a sales cycle. You guys are Pardot, everyone else is ExactTarget, Marketing Cloud. Make it simple? Cool. So if you have a sales team, you have a considered purchase, you need to look at Pardot. If you don't, then you need to look at ExactTarget Marketing Cloud. There we go. Cleared that up for everybody. All right, cool. So here we go. So what I do and my role, I'll kind of give you a background. So I wrote Marketing Automation for Dummies. I do a lot of primary research and a lot of speaking and writing. So I write for lots of different publications, books. I've got a couple new books coming out over the next 2 years. And so part of what I do is I love data. I believe that relevance through research. So I say when I'm a marketer, the only way I can actually be relevant to you is through understanding both what your actions are, and we'll talk about that in a second, but understanding how you want to engage. How do I be relevant to you, right? So these stats are hopefully going to help you see, the world is very different. We've all heard that, but let's actually think about it, right? 1969, we put a man on the moon. 2014, when you do a single search on Google Desktop, not even on your telephone, you use more computing power than NASA had in its entirety to put a man on the moon in 1969. Right? So when we talk about how the consumer has changed, first think about the power that they have at their fingertips. It's not that they necessarily have changed completely, it's the tools and the environment that they operate in allows them to do things in a much, much different, faster way. Right? So think about what this actually means. Right? So we send over 2.5 billion emails every day. Right? I think 200 million hours of YouTube are watched, 500 million tweets. 500 million tweets, think about this. If you were to take it's 140 character max, times 500 million, that's over 22,000 novels that could be generated every day just off of the content on Twitter. 22,000 novels a day, right? We produce more content in the last 2 years than existed in the entirety of the universe, right? So this data that we're producing, it's not only saying, hey, we're putting more stuff out there, it's also more disparate, right? Who knows the whole stat that Gartner says, right? 2017, CMO is going to have the largest budget of anybody inside your organization. Who knew that one? You get a cookie. All right, so now let's talk about what that means, right? Follow the businesses, right? What is a startup or what is a business? Who do they try to attract? Who do they try to make a product for? People that can afford to buy it, right? So marketers are going to have the biggest budget. Technology follows money. What does that mean? That means there's going to be more marketing channels and more marketing technologies to come in the future. What does this mean on social channels? Who's heard of Whisper? Who's heard of Secret? All right, check those out. How about this one? Who's heard of Pinterest? There we go. All right. So you start seeing all these new social channels and more and more are going to be popping up every day because that's where everything is moving to, right? Amazon. Who shops on Amazon? They just opened up their own ad network. That means now marketers will be able to buy your data to target you on other ad networks, not just their own ad network. Everyone is doing this. Facebook. If you guys were reading, I was just told about the Wall Street Journal article about Facebook allowing to track you and all these different things, and people are mystified that they're being tracked. It's like, they sell your data, right? They make a lot of money. That's how they, all right, so how about this? Q1 to Q2 on Facebook. Who wants to take a guess on the increase in the share value and the revenue from Q1 to Q2 for Facebook? Anybody know this number? How much did it increase from Q1 to Q2 in revenue? 60%, right? In 1 quarter, their revenues increased by 60%. That is strictly off of paid in-feed social posting via mobile. That's the number one thing, right? How is that operating? It's operating off of data and all these different channels, right? So we understand all of this. I just gave you some data. You probably knew the basic general, gist of all of that. Now let's talk about really what the consumer is. They're in all these different places all the time. So as a marketer, we usually play the shiny object game, right? Oh, I know they're on Whisper. I just heard about this thing on Whisper. Now I'm going to go over and do that. Now I need to go over and send an email. Well, now they're on my website. Well, now I got to go create content. Well, now I got to put a tweet out. Now I got to manage my Facebook page. Right? Anybody have that problem? All right, thank you. There's one person in the back that's going to help me out. All right. So that's the problem that we have, right? So this problem is not new. It's been around for a long time. If you've been in marketing for any period of time, you can go back to 1995 and follow the continuation of technology. First technology, website, right? Get a website. Who still does not have a website? Don't raise your hand. But there are people that still don't have websites, right? We call these laggards, and the technology adoption curve, if you want to go back to college. Right, so then next thing we had is, we have SEO. I remember the days when there was not an SEO title in LinkedIn. And then about 2004, everyone became an SEO expert overnight. Right, so then that was a title inside of LinkedIn. Then you have email, which happened in between those two. Right, Hotmail. Anyone remember Hotmail? Yahoo bought Hotmail. Hotmail actually stands for HTML. Right, that was the whole brand new technology. Right, so then you start looking at what's next. We have social, we have mobile, we have all these different new technologies, and they all build on top of themselves. One had to have a predecessor or a precursor to have the next level. And now we've ended up in this world of what we call marketing automation, and it's not just a next step. We'll talk about exactly what this means and why it is so different and why it's so impactful from other things in terms of generating pipe. All right, so you guys know the stat, Consumer Executive Board, 60% of the entire, what we call buyer's journey happens without a salesperson. Why? Because no one likes salespeople. It's pretty basic fact, right? And that's not me just saying that. Gallup, who knows Gallup polls, right? They do who is the most distrusted profession poll every year. Sales are the third from the bottom. Who wants to guess what the two below them are? And Congress. Yeah. So anyways, now in 2020, it's expected to be 85%. Why is this? Go back to that original stat. It's because we can find things so fast, we can have interactions all the time, and we do not need to engage with a person. The reason sales exist is because they were a single point of contact in the past. If you wanted information, you had this one point, and you got everything passed through that one point. Now that point doesn't even need to exist. You can find everything without even having to talk to a salesperson. Hence, we do it because we don't want to talk to salespeople, right? But this creates a problem for us and for the marketing team and the sales team, right? So here's the general problem of what this is. Marketing is running around, putting out all these different things. And we're usually driving somebody back to a form of some type, right? Because the best technology we have to identify a sales-ready lead typically is a form conversion. Who here uses web-to-lead forms? All right, perfect. So you get this form. Someone fills it out. And then we say, hey, this person filled out a form, they downloaded this white paper, that is our best guess to understanding that this person is sales ready. So what's the next step that we do? We pass that lead to sales because we have a sales ready lead. I'm using air quotes here because all we know is that they downloaded a white paper. We know nothing else. So how does this scenario play out? Here's how it plays out. We pass the lead over. Sales says, that lead sucks. Marketing says, that lead doesn't suck. You suck at your job because you won't follow up and close that deal. Right? Everyone laughs because it's true in every organization. It's always true. So how do we solve that problem? I'll talk about how you solve that problem in just a second. But what does this ultimately mean to the business? This is a horrible problem. Marketing is doing all of these things, but does not have true visibility into exactly which leads are sales ready. So the leads that we pass over are our best guesses, and our best guesses aren't good enough. Based on statistics, 79% of the leads that we pass over are not pursued. How much money did we spend for that 80%, right? How much of our time did we spend for that 80%? Well, that 80% most likely are leads, and they are leads that are going to close. The odds are that they will buy from you or your competitor within 24 months. If they are engaging with some of your content, the likeliness is that they will buy, just not right now. So now the question is, well, how do I figure out where they are, who they are, and then how do I get the right lead to the right time in front of the salespeople? Right? That's exactly how we figure this out, and so we'll talk about what that does. I'm going to skip that quote. So let's actually get down to the how do you do this. Let's talk about the tactical. We're not going to just show you a bunch of like little pretty pictures and some generic things. We're going to get into the meat of the stuff. So the first problem is if I've got all these different channels, currently I'm having to operate on multiple different platforms. If I want to do a tweet, I might have to be on a certain platform. If I want to do SEO, I might have to be on another platform. I want to create a form, I might have to go to my IT department. I want to send an email, I might have to go to my designer. Does this seem like a scenario you guys are experiencing? All right, so first off, you need a single point of execution. When you have a single point of execution, i.e. a platform, everything then is served up from the exact same platform. Here's the big idea. If it all comes from the same place, all the data goes back to the same place. The data is what we really want. right? So this just makes your life easier. Having a single marketing automation platform makes execution easy, right? They'll have WYSIWYGs, which stands for what you see is what you get. I had to learn that term, right? I tried to go into Google and type WYSIWYG, and I didn't really know how to spell it, so it didn't really help out. And then it's like some kind of British thing. But anyways, so how does it work? So here you go. So you've got the ability to create all these different assets, and then you can publish these assets, whether you're publishing through social, whether you're publishing through email, whether they are forms that need to live on your website. Who does content marketing? Right? The answer is we all do content marketing. The rest of you are just lazy. It's 98% of the people do content marketing. Right? So where does that content need to live? How can we track who engages with that content? Well, you would host it on your platform. So then when someone engages with it, all that information stays together. What web pages they look at, what downloads they have, what forms they've completed, what information we've asked them, what information we need to ask them next. Right? So that's how that works. Here's how then it helps increase revenue and pipe. That data is not just good for you, it's good for everyone. So take this, 1984, remember the book? Why was it such a weird, creepy book to read? Because it was the premise of Big Brother, right? That's where the term Big Brother came from, is this book in 1984. This is Big Brother. You have the ability to see everything that your prospects are doing, every web page they look at. Who does video marketing? You can watch every second that a person watches of your videos. You know where they stopped on that video. The next thing you can do is have automations, such as lead scoring. So how do we then figure out who is sales ready? Well, now I can score every one of these interactions. I know if they fill out this thing, that's only worth a certain amount of points. It doesn't deem them sales ready, it's a part of their sales readiness. So now we can track how far they actually through this funnel with an actual metric, and then serve all this information, this creepy information, to your sales team. Here's where it gets tricky. Your salespeople, anyone a salesperson? You guys are awesome, I promise. The rest of your salespeople, not so bright, right? So you're gonna have to teach them that when they see that this person downloaded a white paper, they don't do this. Hey, I noticed you just downloaded this white paper. You wanna talk about it? I'm not joking. Like, that's serious. You will have to teach them how not to be creepy. But that's the power of this data. And then when it all wraps back around to is how do we prove value? Who wants to guess what the first department is to get canned in a downturn? That's marketing. Sorry about that. I'm in the same role, right? How do we protect our role? Why are we the first to get cut? It's because no one sees what we do as valuable. People see what we do as pretty pictures, right? If you say that you do marketing to somebody, when I say this, they think I draw pretty pictures or I write like slogans, you know? It's not what we do. But how do we prove value is a very tough thing. It's something we've always been trying to figure out. Well, when you know every touch point, you can tie it to every piece of every content, where they are in the sales cycle, and then when they close and this all automatically happens. That's not a far out term. That's not something we have to dream about. That's called marketing automation. That's what that is. Because it's all, once again, executed from a single point, tied into Salesforce, so everything then is attached to an opportunity and to that lead. Now you can see all of those things. So now proving value is no longer ROI. It is time value of money, right? Your CEO does not care about ROI. That is a metric your finance needs to look at to say, hey, are we putting that money where it needs to go? What he cares about is how many revenue cycles can I have in a year? If I can increase and I can have 2 more revenue cycles, that's awesome for a CEO to know, right? How about this? What if I can shorten that sales cycle by 30%? That is proving value through marketing to the organization. You guys kind of catching what I'm talking about? That's how we actually prove that, and that's actually possible through marketing automation. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up Colin and Anna. We're going to do this whole thing, show you a quick demonstration. Then when we get done, I'm going to come back up. We're actually going to have a customer, apartments.com, and we're going to talk a little bit about exactly what their experience has been so you guys can actually hear from somebody and not just us. But anyways, Colin, I'll let you guys take it away.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me all right? There we go. Awesome. I don't need the clicker. Hi, everyone. My name's Colin Berta. I'm a principal marketing architect at Salesforce.com. I've been here for 10 years, a bunch of different clouds and all this exciting stuff. So I'm happy to be speaking with you today. So we're going to go through 3 personas as it relates to the brand of Career Builder, right? So the recruiting system and tool. So first we're going to focus on the customer. We're going to think about sort of a prospect of Career Builder. We're going to talk about a VP of marketing and how they might leverage Pardot to scale and to drive pipeline. And then we're going to also talk about a salesperson. So for the salespeople in the room, you get to see a little bit too. So First, we're going to put our hat on of Ron Abilene. He's a prospective career builder. He's interested in driving more candidates into his pipeline, getting more people in the front door. So what does he do? What do we all do? We go to Google and search for stuff. We search for information. And what we're seeing here is that he's searching for candidate sourcing. He wants to understand how he can source more candidates. And the top result here is a sponsored post by Google. So we click on that, and Ron clicks on that to read a little bit more. He sees a value proposition here. When Ron clicks on that link, he's brought to a landing page. This can be hosted by Pardot. You can easily spin up landing pages in Pardot. If you guys have landing pages already, we can drop a little code on there to help start tracking all that information Matt was talking about. So back in character, Ron sees some value here. He says, you know what, I want to download this report. This seems interesting to me. I'm going to get some data. When he clicks on that button, he's asked for a couple bits of information. This is a fairly classic form, first name, last name, email, and company. And the idea here is that, and this is where some of the magic happens, is that when he submits this, of course, he now exists as a prospect in Pardot, right? And we start running automation to say, you know what, based on the company he's at or location, if that's something interesting, we start running the scoring that we're talking about, right? Is he an appropriate prospect for us? So based on the report, he says, wow, this is really interesting. I'd like to watch a webinar too, because I think there's a little more value for me. When Ron clicks on that button, note that his email address is pre-filled in, right? We've dropped a cookie, a first-party cookie, if you will, on Ron, and we're submitting his email address already. We've got that in here, and we're asking for additional information. This is the concept of dynamic forms being generated. We're saying, you know what, if you want to watch a webinar, can you give us your title? This is something relevant for us and something interesting. So he submits his title as VP of Operations. Again, this is a point for marketers where if you're working with your sales partners, if a VP title is interesting and that's a high value or the right level that you want to be selling to, maybe you bump that score up a little bit of Ron and say, you know, he's a VP. We need to start engaging with him in a very specific way based on the data he's giving us. So he watches the webinar. He's just absolutely amazed, and hopefully he's in the pipeline, right? And we're starting to qualify him a little bit more. So if we switch hats and we switch gears for a second, let's think about most of the folks in the room here, VP of Marketing, someone that's actually doing all of this automation in the background. As a VP of Marketing, and we're going to pretend we're Melissa now, we're logged into Pardot. Melissa's seeing her dashboard, right? So this is the concept of how are my prospects being generated? Are they coming into the door? What does that trend look like? So we've got our nice dashboards right at the top here. And then as we scroll down, we've got our marketing calendar, right? So what campaigns are happening? Are we at Connections 2014 for the next week? What is our team seeing, and what campaigns are scheduled to be firing off? And then right at the bottom, we see on the left-hand side, we see Ron existing in Pardot, right? He submitted his data to us, his information, and now we are starting to track him. The interesting thing as well, functionality-wise, if we get into some of the tech, is that on the right-hand side, we're also tracking anonymous visits to our website. So based on IP address, we can say, wow, someone from Salesforce.com is on my website right now. That's interesting. That can help inform sort of how we might strategize to talk at someone with Salesforce.com. So that's interesting. It's our homepage dashboard. That's great. But how do we bring Ron through that pipeline, right? So if we think about the prospect, how do we start sort of leading him down the path of hopefully becoming a customer? Well, we do that through marketing automation. That's why we're all here today. So if we think about that, this is a drip program in Pardot. And the concept here is that maybe after that webinar, we send Ron an email saying, hey, thanks for attending. Here's some more relevant content. Here's a case study that could be interesting to you. Again, we're doing a value exchange here. And we're going to hang out for a little bit. We're going to give him some time, let him breathe. We don't want to start pounding his door right away. So we'll pause for a couple of days, and you see that little pause button there. And then we ask ourselves a question. We say, okay, what is the action? What is the call to action? If this person does something, what do we want to do next, right? So we say, has he clicked a link in this email? If so, we probably want to do something. We might want to assign Ron to a salesperson because that has denoted that he is now an active prospect. He is a marketing qualified lead, as an example. So let's pause for a second here. This looks really simple, right? We've got this assign via Salesforce.com assignment rule. Pardot is pre-integrated into the Salesforce Sales Cloud. There is no code to be written. You don't have to hire hundreds of thousands of dollars of professional services to integrate this marketing automation system into Salesforce. It's pre-integrated. It's very, very simple to set up. So just wanted to drop that in there. So we're going to assign via an active assignment rule. And you know what? I also want to assign a task to my sales rep based on those assignment rules to say, you know what? You should follow up in a couple days because this, Ron is an interesting prospect, right? So this is giving you guys instant scale as you think about creating all these different drip campaigns to sort of go down the path that you're interested in going down. note how easy this is to use as well, right? This is not something that takes a master's degree in IT to be able to do. It's a very, very simple interface. Hopefully you're seeing that. So that's the concept, and again, super flexible. This can go down as far as you want. You can have a very long journey or drip campaign if you want it to be so. But just know it's right there, super easy to use. So let's put on our third hat. Let's become a sales rep for a second, for those of you that aren't sales reps. So when we think about a sales rep, they're interested in real-time data that's relevant, that's going to help them sell more or sell better or sell faster, right? The concept here, this is the Pardot lead deck, and if we look at what's going on here, these are all of my active prospects. So as a salesperson, if I see that Ron is on the website right now, that could trigger something, right? That could trigger that, wow, I need to call Ron in an hour, right? Maybe you don't, like Matt was saying, you don't want to call him right away and say, hey, I see you're on the website. But you might want to actually, note that or log a task and say, you know what, he's active, I'm going to give him a call. But when you click on Ron's information, and as a sales rep, this is super powerful, you're getting all of his page views. You're seeing if he's searching for something on your website that might inform sort of a relevant conversation. You're seeing that he downloaded a case study in a file and that he viewed this one page 17 times as an example. So the concept here is that this is not necessarily hard to do using Pardot, but this is information salespeople really, really want. Right? This is super relevant, and again, you can get a little pop-up reminder saying, hey, Ron's on your website right now. So this is interesting. Yeah,
you're
go ahead.
that through the Pardot tool.
Mm-hmm.
Can he see that on the lead record in the Sales Cloud as well?
Your check's in the mail, it's coming up. Yeah, absolutely. So absolutely. So we've got a link right here that says open in Salesforce.com. Note that in lead deck, you're not logging activities. You don't have all sort of that ancillary data that you might have in Salesforce.com. So when we open up the lead record in Salesforce, right in the center here, we're actually seeing the concept of Pardot information, Pardot score. So just a brief tutorial, we've got two fields here, right? So we've got Pardot grade and we've got Pardot score. The grade is how interested we are in this person based on their title or location or whatever that might be. And their score is how interested they are in us, right? So again, running those automation rules to say, if they download a white paper, that's 50 points when we bump them up, and then maybe we assign it to someone. Again, endless possibilities here. So that's one concept that is, again, pre-integrated into Salesforce.com Sales Cloud. Super easy to see here. And then you get all the benefit of running Salesforce workflow or running assignment rules, again, based on any of these data points since it's natively integrated. And then up at the top right-hand side, exactly to your question, sir, you've got prospect activity, right? So you can see all those clicks, all those downloads, all those views right in line here, super simple. And then the real benefit, again, to marketing is that you can offer up to the sales team, hey, here are the campaigns that you could put your prospect in. So let's say we talk with Ron, and again, I'm a sales guy, I'm talking with Ron, and he says, you know what, I'm not quite ready. I need a couple months to sort of evaluate, maybe put out an RFP, whatever that might be. Right here, I can select a drop-down and say, you know what, I'm going to put Ron on a 90-day drip program because he's not quite ready, but I want marketing to work for me a little bit, and I'll throw him on that campaign, click on save, and now he's in that drip program that we saw as an example. So all of you probably have a mobile phone in your pocket. I've got one in mine. You guys are at a conference this week, right? So you're probably not in the office, you're not on a browser. So wouldn't it be great if this information could be displayed to your sales force and your sales team on mobile device as well? So through Salesforce One, we see here we've got another prospect of ours, Derek Grant. And if we swipe over, what we're seeing is that Pardot information obviously can be displayed in mobile as well. So as this loads, we're going to see the same sort of concept, right? So Pardot activities, list membership, things of that nature. And interestingly enough as well, social data. So especially at a connections conference, right? When you're at a marketing event, you want to meet people. If you've got a prospect in there, and imagine you can pull up their LinkedIn profile and say, okay, they're interested in these types of things, or they're an SEO expert, or they're an email expert, or whatever that might be. But again, to sort of layer on data that's going to give you a relevant point of conversation. It's all pre-integrated, again, totally possible, Salesforce One and Pardot tied together. So I think the thing to close with as well is that, like Matt was mentioning, because we've got all this data and it's getting aggregated and all that fun stuff, you've got a full reporting tool as well to be able to report on marketing qualified leads to sales qualified leads to hopefully closed opportunities, right? All that data is right there at your fingertips as well. So hopefully this is helpful. Again, we've got time for Q&A at the end, but I'll reintroduce Matt, and thanks guys for your time.
Great job.
Thanks.
All right, thanks so much, guys. I hope you guys found that interesting, so you can actually see what it looks like, how you can actually use it. How does this work? Like, we showed you a bunch of pretty pictures, and you know, we talk for a living, so of course it sounds good. I have an accent, so it doesn't sound great, but anyway, so, but we'll kind of get into some client stuff. So, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. Now, tell us a little bit about apartments.com and kind of your role with apartments.com.
I'm the email and SMS marketing manager for both B2B and B2C side. And we are a online resource for consumers to find apartments. We list 1 million apartments a month, and we're a free service to consumers, but we're an advertising site for properties and management companies.
Yeah, great. So, I mean, when I hear apartments.com, I think of, like you said, the B2C side. How do you guys use Pardot in a B2B perspective?
So we use ExactTarget for our B2C side of things, and we use Pardot to market to properties and management companies. And the reason we got Pardot was we were finding that we were kind of giving our salespeople cold leads, and with Pardot, we were now able to warm them up with lead scoring and putting them in a drip campaign, just like you saw in the demo. We were having various forms out there, downloading white papers, and so when a salesperson called on a property or property management, they weren't calling them and saying, hey, you know, I'm calling from apartments.com. Oh, who are you guys? These people already know who we are, know what we do, because they have a lead score of, say, 50 or 60 versus someone who has no idea who we are with a score of like 0.
Cool, cool. Now, before you used Pardot, you guys were just doing, like you said, regular email forms, the general kind of, you know, everything that everyone's doing. Give us some numbers of what things used to look like so we can have something to compare them to as to how they are now.
So let's just say we were bringing in about 92 leads a month and closing 3 of them. So obviously that's not a great number. Now with Pardot, we are bringing in 90 leads that are qualified, that are actually warm and hot leads, and we're closing 33 of them per month. So the conversion rate is obviously higher. I mean, we were getting so much spam with our web to lead forms, and I mean, we were getting, maybe hundreds of leads, but maybe 20 of them were actual leads coming in that were legit. I mean, otherwise we were getting, you know, websites like google.com and random spam traps that were coming through. So it's helped us tremendously in from a qualifying perspective.
Yeah, and when you say google.com, just to be clear, we're talking about when someone fills in the email address.
Yep.
Pardot has the feature functionality to actually say, excuse me, that's a free email tool. We actually like a business email address. It'll actually allow you to filter out or not allow people to submit without a valid B2B email address.
Yeah, the Pardot forms are great. They catch everything. I mean, everything that comes through is a email that we can email to, and it goes through the system and it kicks out everything, like he said, that's not a valid email.
And now in terms of sales and marketing alignment, are sales enjoying the leads that you guys are passing over? Do you guys feel a better relationship with them?
Yes, definitely. They're very accepting of what we're sending to them. They are using the visual force pages that show the Pardot lead scoring. So we're now in a training phase where we're moving them into teaching them a little bit more about how Pardot works rather than just looking at the lead score, because we don't want our salespeople to be those creepy salespeople that call on somebody that just maybe looked at our website or downloaded a white paper, 5 seconds ago.
Awesome. And what's it, you guys are doing a lot of stuff now. What are you excited about doing in the future with Pardot and Salesforce combination?
I think just with all of the releases that you guys are going to be coming out with, I think implementing that, and then obviously training our sales team to use the system a little bit better. If they can, we would love to train them to add them to a drip campaign and, really look at how the lead deck works. Right now, we're kind of taking baby steps because as a marketing team, we wanted to learn the system inside and out before we go ahead and train the sales team on that.
Gotcha. And just so we're all on the same page, you stay inside of Pardot, and we're talking about turning on what we saw as the sales functionality, inside of Salesforce then, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Cool. Questions. We'll hop into questions. So anybody have questions, and we'll go ahead. Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Yes, you can add that as an option onto every form underneath. You can also add, because we have a lot of property management companies that forward on webinars, webinar emails to obviously the other people in their building or in their properties that they have underneath them. And there's a little button that says not you, and then you can click it, and then you can go and get that other person's information. Maybe you didn't have the correct property manager or leasing manager's information. You only had, say, the vice president of marketing. So it will then filter that through. But yes, to answer your question, it does offer that.
Just to clarify just a little bit, we're talking about, like, so if the person's email address is they give you like Mickey Mouse at salesforce.com, that's actually going to be a valid email address. There's no way you can actually filter that out. However, so if they gave you, if like the syntax was first letter, last name, there's no way that a tool, unless you add on some kind of data cleansing tool like a Ringlead or a data.com or some other type of validator, that would have to happen on the back end. It's only going to look at the actual domain and see if that's actually a valid business domain. It's not going to look at the syntax of the actual first part of the email.
The validation doesn't send out a, confirm this or sign back.
There's the CAPTCHA.
Yeah. So the captcha will see if it's a live person, but for the actual, like the syntax of the email, that's nobody really does that right now. Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk about how you establish your lead scoring?
Sure. We actually just went through and kind of mapped it out on a whiteboard, to tell you the truth, and said how many points do we want to give. Everybody started out as a 0 in our system. And then our customers, I believe we started out as like a 10 or a 15 because they're already existing customers. So we just want to see where, we have some customers now since February that are at a score of 750 that are really actively engaged, which is insane. But those are people that probably click and open every link. And there are larger property management companies. But for instance, when someone fills out a form, we give them 5 points. When someone unsubscribes them, we remove them from that list and put them in another bucket. And then we obviously give them a negative in points as well. So for every action that they take, for an open email, we only give them 1 point. Click could be 2 points. So it just depends on what your company wants to do.
That's a great question. I think the main point is that look at exactly like you did. Look at what actions and what those actions actually say, right? An email click might not necessarily be a sales-ready action, but maybe if it's a very specific email, it says, do you want to register for a demo? You have the ability, like, as we said, millions of possibilities to give that one specific email more. I think the key is just to figure out what your content, what the pages mean in terms of an interaction, and then score that appropriately. Good question. Next question. Yes, ma'am, the purple.
No, we're actually not doing that right now. We will eventually start doing that, but no, we're not using timeframes. So it's strictly lead scoring on what they do from day one.
Yeah, that is possible, but that's pretty advanced. Most people don't take it to that level. You are pretty advanced on that.
Yeah. Our industry as well it has a very high turnover rate. So a leasing manager or a property manager may be at a property for 2 to 3 months and then somebody else comes back in. So it's really hard to gauge at that point.
Awesome, good question. Yes, ma'am.
What are the biggest differences, or why do you choose to use Journey Builder versus the drip campaigns and like that?
We're not actually on Journey Builder yet for Exact Target. We will be starting the end of this year. But we've used Pardot just because it was a little bit easier to set up. We were spending a lot of time setting up programs and running queries and whatnot. And as you see, this is just very easy drag and drop. We only have a few people in the marketing team that are experienced in Pardot that can run it, and we can create templates. We can have existing templates, and we can shoot out emails a lot faster. And especially with our B2B side, when we have to run with something, we have to run fast. So we just decided to use Pardot and keep the system separate.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies that actually use, such as restaurants.com is a good example. They have a B2C side, such as like the gift cards that you would get and the marketing of the restaurants to a consumer. And so they use an exact target journey builder on that side. But the B2B side, very much like when they're selling to the actual restaurants, when they're trying to get people to sign up, or how they sell, such as you can sell, restaurants.com also sells their gift cards to businesses, such as incentive programs. On that side, they actually use the Pardot from the B2B side, and then they use the B2C side and Journey Builder for the B2C communications. It really comes down to, is the goal to be able to track and score and pass to a sales rep? And if that's part of your workflow, that's a Pardot workflow versus a Journey Builder workflow, if that makes sense. Yes, ma'am.
You did your setup alone, or you need a partner, Salesforce partner to do this setup?
I'm sorry, do we need a Salesforce partner?
Setup, or you did alone?
Well, you can use a Salesforce partner. I know that they have many third parties that help them do that. But honestly, to tell you the truth, the implementation directions are extremely easy. It's step by step. And if your company has a Salesforce admin or a marketing admin, they could handle it. It's very easy.
Yes, ma'am.
I could see a scenario, I'm a B2B, but we're a membership-based organization, so I could see a scenario where we have Exact Target, we would use that for messaging to the majority of our membership, but we still sell products to a smaller set of folks. Is there an integration between Exact Target? I mean, I know there's an integration between Exact Target and Salesforce, but is that the connection between Exact Target and Pardot? Is there any connection there whatsoever, or are they really separate and distinct?
Between Exact Target and Pardot?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are very separate and distinct. Now, all Pardot emails are sent through the Exact Target framework for email sending. And then everything is going to get passed back into Salesforce on the individual record. That's then when they would both tie together. So if it gets passed back and lives on a lead contact or account record, that then could be picked up by Pardot or any other tool on your Hub Exchange. Yes, sir.
If you already had automation of some kind set up before moving to Pardot, could you kind of give us an idea of what your transition process looked like into Pardot?
Yeah, and when you say you have an automation, is it inside of Salesforce automation, or is that an automation on another marketing tool? Yeah, so
From Exact Target moving from that to
yeah, so the gist on this, anytime you move from one technology to the other, you're going to have to recreate everything. So if you were on one existing marketing automation platform, regardless of whatever it might be, you would still have to recreate everything inside of the new tool, whether it be Pardot or any other tool that you move to. It just has to do with the basics of how they are. The difference is that inside of Pardot, everything is very easy to set up. The hardest part, and when someone adopts marketing automation, specifically Pardot, it's not the actual learning of the tool, it's understanding what they want to have happen. We've seen more times companies that don't really, they see the big shiny object and they see a presentation like this and they hear, you know, we're converting 33 leads versus 2 leads, and they don't understand all the work behind that to actually get to that goal, such as diagramming what your customer flow is, understanding the correct content, making sure the correct content made, and then building out the different workflows, understanding stage-based nurturing, all those different aspects. But in terms of actually creating the workflow, it's very easy. So if you already have all that work done, it's very easy to get up and running inside of Pardot. Does that help out? All right.
We mapped it out on a whiteboard first.
Yeah.
And then we built it within there.
Yeah, cool. Any other questions? If not, we'll give you some time back. Cool. Well, thanks everybody so much for coming.